All right, welcome to this session of Ask Advisory. Today we are going to be talking about your audience sizes and budgets for Facebook and Instagram ads. Now, if we haven't met before, I am Anna, the founder of Advisory, and I have worked in advertising on and off for about 10 years. I've placed millions of dollars in media for businesses large and small across the globe. And I started Advisory because I wanted to give marketing expertise to businesses of all sizes, and I really wanted to demystify the digital space for businesses and just really provide transparent partnership with businesses and organizations. So you can learn more about Advisory if you're interested in it at advisorymarketing.com. In these sessions, we have them every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. And a lot of times we talk about Facebook and Instagram ads because they are a great tactic for any business of all sizes, and because it's something to get that you can easily access as a business. And then also, last but not least, but most important, Facebook and Instagram ads are right now the most efficient, effective, and usually have the highest ROI when it comes to marketing. Now, we also talk about business tips and other marketing tips, but like I said, today we are going to be talking about audience sizes and budgets for your Facebook and Instagram ads. So the first thing that I want to talk about is how big should your audience be? I get asked this all the time, and you'll have some people out there say the magic number is 1.5 million people. I don't think there is a magic number, but there are definitely some best practices that you should be aware of. Now, the first thing, and I always talk about this, you have to think about whatever campaign you're running, where are these people within the marketing sales funnel? So as a reminder, the marketing sales funnel is the path to purchase, and from introduction to actually becoming a loyal customer. Now, the very top of the funnel is awareness, just making people aware of what you have to offer. And the most important thing to think about is when you're thinking about awareness, you want to have a big enough audience because only a percentage of people who become aware of you are actually going to consider you, and then a percentage of people who are considering you are actually going to purchase from you, and then a percentage of people who purchase from you are actually going to become loyal. So when you're running a campaign to a cold audience, that means someone who's probably never heard of you before, you want to make sure that it's big enough, because if it's not big enough, then you're going to pay a lot more for your ads. So, but you also don't want it to be too big, because then either your ads are not going to be relevant because your audience is too broad, or you're going to actually pay more because you're not getting any clicks because, again, or interactions because your audience is too broad. All right, so how to know if your audience is too broad or too small? So the first thing that you have to think about is what type of company you are and what your goal is, okay? So first, let's talk about a brand awareness campaign. So that's a campaign where you're trying to get more people to know about you and what you have to offer. If you're a company and you're like, I own a restaurant in this town and I want more people to know about my restaurant, right? That's a great start, but it's a huge difference between if you live in a town of 50,000 people versus if you have a restaurant in Manhattan, right? So you can't expect to spend $500 on brand awareness for a restaurant in New York City and $500 on a restaurant in a town of 50,000 and get the same results. You have to make tweaks, because if you spread it too thin, like if I just said, I want to shoot for everyone who lives in New York City, your $500 is a waste, right? What you need to think about is, okay, who's most likely to come to my restaurant? Probably people who live nearby, people who work nearby. And by nearby, I don't mean like, you know, way, way, way out there. I'm saying like within like a half a mile, maybe a mile around where you are. Most people, like, that would be a great starting point. Now, if you're a local business and you live in a smaller town, then again, you probably still want to make sure that you're hitting people who live in your area, not just everyone who's in that area or traveling through that area. Another thing you want to think about is when you're talking to cold audiences is if your goal is a conversion. So a lot of times, especially for service-based businesses or digital-based businesses, the very first introduction that someone has to your business is a opt-in. So you're getting them to opt into your email list by giving them either some sort of like white paper or mini course or guide or whatever it may be, okay? Now, the thing is this is a tricky one sometimes because you need to have a broad enough audience that there are enough people for Facebook to target to get them and find who will actually opt in and is interested in what you have to offer. But you also need to make sure that your audience is big enough that there is enough people for Facebook to go after. So a lot of times you have to play with this. And the biggest advice that I would say is every time you change something, you probably want to make a new ad set so then you can compare other audiences versus the changes that you've made. All right, the last thing that I want to talk about is when you're going after warm audiences. So these are people who already know about you. So they're like your page fans, your email subscribers, your website visitors, your past purchasers, anyone that has indicated, hey, I know who you are and I'm interested in learning more. That is a warm audience, okay? Now, when you're going after warm audiences, I see this a lot too. You can actually spend too much on your warm audiences. Of course, you want to make sure that you are talking to them. A lot of times I see people say, okay, I have them on my email list. I don't need to serve ads to them anymore. That is not okay. Look at your open rate. I'm guessing it's not 100%, which means not 100% of the people on your email list are seeing your ads. And if you've got those people to become on your email list on Facebook or Instagram, then you need to be talking to them on Facebook and Instagram. So make sure you're still serving them ads. Cool? All right, now back to my point. You can actually spend too much on your own audiences or your warm audiences. Now, here's a good rule of thumb. Now, if you have whatever amount your audiences, and remember when you're going through your ad sets, on the side it says, what is your potential reach? That is like a gold mine. Use that to your advantage. If your potential reach says less than 1,000, that's fine if it's a warm audience. It is not okay if you are going after cold audiences, okay? If you have if your little, you have your little arrow, okay? It says red, green, or I think it's yellow is too broad. If you're going after a cold audience, you want to be in that green area, okay? If you're going after a warm audience and you're in the red area that says that it's a really small audience, that's okay, but you just don't want to spend too much money on it. So a good rule of thumb is to spend 3 to 7 cents per person per week on those warm audiences. Now, again, I don't love giving out numbers because then everyone's like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And trust me, I get it. If you have an email list of like 200,000, that 3 to 7 cents might not be actually doable. So then you might want to segment that list and say, okay, these are the most important people that I'm going after. Now, again, though, you don't want to just throw money out at a big audience and hope it doesn't work. So if you can't do that 3 to 7 cents per person per week, then choose the audiences that are most important to talk to and create a budget that you can that's viable for your business. Now, the reason why I say you could spend too much money is because let's say you have an email list of 5,000 and when you upload it to Facebook, you have a match of about 4,000, okay? You don't want to be spending $10,000 towards those 4,000 people every week. Like, that is just a huge waste of money, and people will get, one, Facebook probably might not even be able to spend all of that money, and two, people are going to be so annoyed by all of your ads. So just remember that as a good rule of thumb. So just as a recap, when you're going after cold audiences, make sure it's not too broad. Yes, you're probably you could spend more or you could spend less, but going after too broad is basically just throwing your money out the door and probably not seeing results. But you also can't go too small, because then Facebook doesn't have enough people to find who actually are interested in what you have, but also are going to take the action that you want them to take. When you're going after warm audiences, remember that, one, you can't just talk to them in the inbox, because especially if you found them on Facebook and Instagram, that's where they hang out. You need to be where they hang out. And a good rule of thumb is 3 to 7 cents per person per week. All right, if you have any other questions about audience sizes or budgeting, put it in the comments and we'll be sure to get back to you. And remember, we have these Ask Advisory sessions every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. And we also, I have to mention, have a brand new free mini course on how to grow your business, even on a small budget, using Facebook and Instagram ads. So make sure to check that out as well. I will see you guys next time. Bye.